Welcome back to Jazz Inspires. I'm Joe, and today we're diving headfirst into the electric and boundary-pushing world of jazz rock. This is the place where improvisation meets groove, where virtuosity meets raw power, and where the worlds of jazz and rock collide to create something truly unique. Today I'll be sharing 10 essential jazz rock albums that I think every fan needs to hear at least once. Now, these aren't in any particular order. Jazz rock is far too diverse and expansive to just rank in a simple countdown. And as always, this is just my take. If your favorite jazz rock album doesn't appear on my list, it doesn't mean it's not great. In fact, I'd love to hear your thoughts on which albums deserve a spot in the comments below. So let's get straight into it. Here are 10 of the greatest jazz rock albums of all time. Let's start with a landmark debut, Chicago Transit Authority. Before they shortened their name to simply Chicago and found mainstream success with radio-friendly rock ballads, the band began as an ambitious jazz rock outfit. This double album is a bold statement. Horn-driven arrangements meet extended instrumental sections, blending the raw energy of rock with the sophistication of jazz. Songs like Introduction and Beginnings combine strong melodies with improvisation, while their cover of I'm a Man pushes into extended jam territory. Historically, Chicago Transit Authority is important because it proved that a large-scale rock band with a brass section could capture mainstream attention without watering down their jazz influences. It paved the way for horn-based rock and jazz fusion groups to gain wider popularity. Frank Zappa's Hot Rats is often hailed as one of the early examples of jazz fusion, and it's easy to see why. This album finds Zappa stepping away from the satirical rock of the Mothers of Invention and diving into instrumental jazz-infused explorations. The standout track Peaches on Regalia has become an iconic piece of modern instrumental music. It's quirky, colourful, and full of intricate arrangements that blur the line between jazz sophistication and rock edge. Elsewhere on the album, the 13-minute Willie the Pimp showcases raw, bluesy vocals by Captain Beefheart, before opening into an extended jam full of improvisation and experimentation. What makes Hot Rats so significant is its sense of adventure. Zappa recruited jazz violinist Jean-Luc Ponty and other session players to create music that was progressive, experimental, and entirely unique. The album demonstrated that rock musicians could embrace jazz complexity, and that jazz musicians could find inspiration in rock's rawness. Weather Report were one of the defining bands of jazz fusion, and Heavy Weather is arguably their masterpiece. By this point, co-leaders Joe Zawinul and Wayne Shorter had crafted a sound that was atmospheric, funky, and remarkably accessible for a fusion group. The track Birdland became an unexpected hit, showing that a jazz instrumental could find mainstream popularity. It's upbeat, catchy, and still maintains a sophisticated harmonic depth that jazz fans crave. Jaco Pastorius, one of the most influential electric bass players of all time, shines here. His tone, groove, and melodic sensibility redefined what the bass guitar could do. Historically, Heavy Weather captured fusion at its commercial and creative peak. It managed to be experimental without alienating listeners, funky without being shallow, and jazzy without being elitist. For many, this album is the gateway into the world of jazz rock. Jeff Beck, already known as one of the greatest rock guitarists of his generation, turned decisively towards fusion with Blow by Blow. Produced by George Martin, yes, the Beatles producer, the album is entirely instrumental, and it showcases Beck's guitar as the expressive centerpiece. Tracks like Scatterbrain push into virtuosic territory, with intricate rhythms and blazing solos, while 'Cause We've Ended as Lovers shows Beck's more lyrical and emotional side. His phrasing throughout the album has a distinctly improvisational quality, something drawn directly from jazz sensibilities. What's fascinating about Blow by Blow is that it introduced fusion to a rock audience in a very direct way. This wasn't an underground jazz record, it was a charting album, and it showed how fluid the boundaries between jazz and rock could be when approached with creativity and respect for both traditions. If there's one album that captures the sheer, raw energy of jazz rock in its earliest days, it's Emergency by Tony Williams' Lifetime. Recorded when Williams was just 24 years old, this album is loud, intense, and unapologetically experimental. Williams was already a legendary drummer from his work with Miles Davis, but here he forged something completely different. With John McLaughlin on guitar and Larry Young on organ, the music is fiery and sometimes chaotic, blending free-form improvisation with distorted rock-like aggression. Emergency is historically significant because it is one of the first records to truly fuse rock and jazz into one single unified sound. It shocked traditional jazz audiences, but it inspired countless younger musicians to explore new possibilities. Today, it is regarded as a cornerstone of the genre. When John McLaughlin formed the Mahavishnu Orchestra, the result was one of the most explosive bands in jazz rock history. Their debut, The Inner Mounting Flame, is a tour de force of technical virtuosity, spiritual intensity, and genre-blurring creativity. The opening track, Meeting of the Spirits, sets the tone. Odd time signatures, soaring guitar, blazing violin from Jerry Goodman, Jan Hammer's otherworldly keyboard textures, and Billy Cobham's powerhouse drumming. The music feels both disciplined and chaotic, structured yet free-flowing. This album stands out because it pushed fusion to new heights of intensity. While many jazz rock records were funky or atmospheric, The Inner Mounting Flame was almost overwhelming in its speed and complexity. It influenced not just jazz musicians, but also progressive rock and even heavy metal players. Jean-Luc Ponty, the violinist, became one of fusion's most recognized figures, and Enigmatic Ocean is a fantastic example of his artistry. Unlike many jazz rock albums dominated by guitar or keyboards, this record places the violin at the center of the sound, giving it a distinct flavor. Ponty's playing here is both lyrical and technically dazzling. The album features long-form compositions that move through shifting moods, with support from an outstanding band including Alan Holdsworth on guitar and Daryl Stuermer, who later played with Genesis and Phil Collins. What makes Enigmatic Ocean special is the way it balances accessibility with ambition. The melodies are memorable, the grooves are tight, and yet the improvisation is adventurous. It showed that jazz rock could be virtuosic without losing its emotional core. Steely Dan might not be the first name that comes to mind when you think of jazz rock, but Aja earns its place here. This album is the pinnacle of the band's sophisticated, jazz-influenced pop rock sound. Songs like Deacon Blues and the title track Aja feature extended solos from jazz greats such as Wayne Shorter on saxophone and Steve Gadd delivering one of the most celebrated drum performances in recording history. Guitarists Larry Carlton and Lee Retinoir also contribute, adding to the impeccable musicianship. What sets Aja apart is the sheer perfection of the production and arrangements. Donald Fagen and Walter Becker crafted an album that's smooth and polished, but at its heart, it's deeply connected to jazz sensibilities. It's an album that bridges the gap between mainstream rock audiences and the sophistication of jazz. Drummer Alphonse Mouzon may not be as much of a household name as some others on this list, but his album Mind Transplant is an undeniable jazz rock classic. Mouzon had already worked with Weather Report and Larry Coryell, but here he stepped into the spotlight with a blistering set of fusion tracks. The album features guitarist Tommy Bolin, who brings a fiery rock edge, and the chemistry between Bolin and Mouzon is electrifying. The grooves are tight, the drumming is explosive, and the music balances rock's energy with jazz's complexity in a way that feels natural and exciting. Mind Transplant is often referred to as one of the great fusion drum albums, but it's much more than a showcase for Mouzon. It's a collaborative, adventurous, and highly listenable record that stands tall amongst the jazz rock albums of the 1970s. We round off with Romantic Warrior by Chick Corea's Return to Forever. If you're looking for the pinnacle of technical mastery in jazz rock, this is it. The lineup: Corea on keyboards, Stanley Clarke on bass, Al Di Meola on guitar, and Lenny White on drums. An all-star band firing on all cylinders. The compositions draw from classical influences as much as jazz and rock, creating long, intricate pieces like Medieval Overture and Sorceress. The interplay between the musicians is jaw-dropping, yet the music never feels like empty virtuosity. Instead, it's full of imagination, colour, and creativity. Romantic Warrior stands as a high watermark, not just for jazz rock, but for instrumental music in general. So those are 10 albums that I think capture the very best of jazz rock. Remember, this isn't a ranked list. These are all equally essential in their own way. And of course, there are countless other records that could be added here. If I missed one of your favorites, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your picks. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the video to spread to other viewers who may really enjoy the content. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the Jazz Inspires YouTube channel so you never miss a future upload. If you want to continue hanging out, I will put a link to a video in the corner now for you to click on. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.